All right. Well, it's not too often, so we are recording. It's not too often that you have two Evans on an interview. So we have the Evan interviewing Evan interview. So really
Yeah.
excited for this one. So thank you, Evan, for talking to me and my class of current students. Behind the camera, behind me or in front of me, we've got 25 developers learning C sharp. And so for many of them, this is their first experience in programming. And they're about, well, a little under 2 months into learning their first coding language. So thank you for taking the time to talk to them and kind of provide any insight to the industry. As a recent Ranken graduate yourself, really excited to talk to you because, again, that relatability to current students, like you just went through this, so you know what this curriculum is. So thanks, yeah, thanks for taking the time. Um, First question is, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself to the audience.
Yeah. Hi, guys. My name's Evan Arenas. I'm a ranking graduate of 2022. I started the program, of course, back in 2020. That was kind of that was fall of 2020, right after COVID hit. But, I think the classroom did the same thing that the workplace did, which was kind of remote, kind of in class. And it was kind of difficult at first, but I think everyone managed to adapt because I think naturally the kids that were in the class, myself included, were kind of we kind of grew up in that era where things are mostly turning into online related stuff. Gaming's online, you talk to people online, that sort of stuff. So, shifting the classroom to that wasn't too bad. Uh, I spent most of my 2 years really just engrossed in the curriculum. I remember signing up for it and not really sure what I was getting myself into because I looked at the title of the curriculum and I thought, yeah, that sounds like something I might want to do. But I hadn't had any experience um, prior to 2020 in terms of like web development. I knew Java, I knew C++, but those you don't really use for web development too much. And it wasn't until later on that I found out front end development and back end development was really interesting. And so we've learned these things in Mr. G's curriculum, but also we did some stuff like uh, Android development and Windows development with C Sharp, like you guys are doing right now. And I think altogether the curriculum was just really it was just really broad, and it exposed me to a lot of things. And so when I finally graduated, I had a better idea of what I wanted to do, and that's how I got to where I am. I pointed my nose in the direction of a company that I thought I really wanted to work for, and that's how I am where I am today.
So where are you today?
I work for Enterprise Holdings. It's the parent company for Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Now, Enterprise Rent-A-Car didn't have a parent company, of course. It was just itself, Enterprise. And then I think it was about 10 or no, it was about 13 years ago, 12 or 13 years ago, they bought Alamo. You guys might be familiar with Alamo. It was a competitor and National. They were two competitor companies in the same line of business, but two different markets. And by market, I mean they targeted different demographics of people.
Yeah.
And so once they bought out those companies, they needed a parent company. Enterprise Holdings was kind of formed, I guess, from that. And um, as me being an employee for Enterprise Holdings, that means I'm not tied down to one specific company. I work for the IT division for all three of them. And so that's what I do.
And so you work for all three companies, and what do you do for them? What kind of IT work?
Right. So I'm sure you can imagine this scenario. I mean, this company's been around since the early 50s, I believe. And so there was no IT back then. The way they've handled business from then until today has always been incrementally making changes just to keep up with things. Obviously, they added websites and so on and so forth. And the front end of everything is really modern and it looks great. But usually what companies do later on is they update the back end as necessary. And this became very necessary like I said, 12 or 13 years ago when they bought out two other companies, which was they had their own separate services. And by that, I mean their own databases, their own backend structures to operate the business. And so it really didn't make much sense for Enterprise Holdings now to try to operate three separate entities. And so that's what I do for my company now. And this is probably the case for a lot of companies who were conglomerates or buy out other smaller competitors. And it's that they're constantly trying to merge their services together to unify them. And it's not just a simplification thing for the company, it's also for, I think, customers too. It makes it a lot easier for customers and even employees to just do their daily work when there's not that much segmentation between the lines of business. And so what I do is exactly that. I'm a back-end web developer. I am in progress. I think we're about 50, 55, 60% through basically rebuilding the entire back-end API. Now, there are many APIs at our workplace, but just one of them, for example, is the reservation API, which people use to create a reservation for a car rental. And so that's what we're doing. And it's, of course, across all three brands. Every brand is slightly different, so it's got to be able to support all of that unique information across all three, but be compatible with any kind of reservation.
Well, that's fantastic. And so you've been doing this for a year now. You've been working for Enterprise Holdings, working as a back end developer, kind of working with these three different companies to unify their software.
Yeah, it didn't start off me being too involved. There was obviously a period where just trying to learn the business. I hadn't worked in any serious company before, not in the business world per se. I've worked in various warehouse positions and such. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that, fast food. But working for a company with business processes and documentation is not something that I had prior experience in. So getting used to that on top of applying my skills to the job was it was a feat, that's for sure. Something that took some time and is still taking time.
Yeah.
Every day I learned something new.
So, what job title have they granted you? Have you been? What's your job title?
IT engineer 1. We go by E1, letter E, 1.
Nice.
There are 4 levels for that, and obviously the pay grade just goes up as you traverse that. There's also other positions like IT architect, so on and so forth.
Nice.
And they're all just related. They're in the same category.
And what are the day-to-day software languages that you write or work with?
So we use primarily Java as the language for our API development. I'm not sure if any other departments use anything different. Now, granted, other departments are doing things like web development in the front end sense. So obviously, they're probably not using Java there. I think they are using React for some of it, not all of it. So it's a little mix of probably server side stuff and then some React stuff as well on the customer side.
So how comfortable were you picking up Java, being that wasn't something that was in the curriculum? It's kind of gone in and out of the curriculum. It's not currently in. So how hard was
That's
that?
right. That's right. And the curriculum, like Mr. G said, was different. So we had learned HTML, CSS, JavaScript even, which is not related to Java too much. And then we did C#, like the students in this class are doing, not related also. And then finally we did JavaScript and traditional Java, but for the Android sense. And
That's
so
right. You did have some Java in your curriculum. That's
so
right.
there was a
Forgot.
little bit of overlap, just a tiny bit, but it was really the back end skills that I carried with me into this job. Just understanding how to write code in that sense. But I think Java is not too difficult of a language. I think most people will say this. It's fairly straightforward. It has a lot of syntax to it, but I think anybody can pick it up. And even if you were learning it for the first time, I think it wouldn't be a trouble.
So I'm just taking a guess. We got the blurred background that you're working from home today. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Most of the people for Enterprise Holdings work from home. Ever since COVID happened, just like the classroom, they started working from home. We do have a whole bunch of offices, and the company has kind of consolidated that. So some of the buildings are not being used, and they're trying to get rid of them. And we do have an office that I actually go to occasionally, which is our Lakeside office
Okay.
in Maryland Heights. But that's it's not too common for the people for employees to go into the office. I think people really do like working from home.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So what's your 9 to 5 like? I mean, walk me through a standard day for you on the job.
Yeah, my manager asked me before I started what time I really wanted to get started. I've been lucky to have a team that's very accommodating. Um, and so, 8 o'clock in the morning is when I log on, but it's not like if I'm not on by 8:05, then I get in trouble or anything. So there's no breathing down my neck. But uh, I start my morning earlier than our first stand up. Our stand up is what we do amongst our small knit team, um, which goes over things we did yesterday, things we're going to plan on doing today. If we have any issues, how we're gonna reach out to other people for help, meetings, that sort of stuff. And that's not too long. That's maybe 15 minutes. And after that, then I just my nose down, getting into the code. And if there are any meetings relating to our business, and I participate in those. Then comes lunch. Um, I don't have a whole, I don't have a schedule for that sort of per se. If I want to take a lunch at like 11:30, I'll take it then. Sometimes I don't take lunch till 1, but it's just kind of dependent on when I feel like it. It's not like there's any pressure to work harder or anything. And then the rest of the day is kind of more the same. Uh, I wouldn't say it's dull, but it's definitely set in stone, in the sense that I know what I'm going to be doing. It's not like it's a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's no shocks. There's not many shocks to the system.
Yeah,
It's predictable.
everybody has their roles, Mr. G. One of the things that I carried with me from one of the previous classes in your curriculum was that there are business roles such as business analyst, developer, project manager. Then there's like the manager for like a whole department per se, quality analyst, so on and so forth. And those roles actually they do exist. It's not like they're just general roles that are kind of broad and fictional in a sense. They really do exist. In fact, all those line up exactly with how our business operates. I'm a developer. I work with QA. I have a project manager every day that I speak to. I speak to business analysts too. So stuff like that. Like I was saying before, everybody has their role. So in a sense, it's the workplace, the daily life is pretty set in stone in terms of what you're going to be doing.
How many hours a week? So let's just say you work 40 hours. How many hours are you spending writing code versus like in meetings?
I don't really spend a whole lot of time in my meetings. I think on a daily basis, on average, I spend maybe an hour to 2 hours in a meeting. It fluctuates quite a bit. Some days 3, some days 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But as far as writing code goes, that's the majority of my time. And it's not strictly just writing code. Uh, Given that I work in a team environment, a lot of the time is spent peer review. I'm not sure if any of the students have heard of this before, but whenever you submit code in a business environment, and even in like an open environment where like you're sharing code freely with the world on GitHub, for example, people that want to contribute don't just merge theirs straight to master, for example. There's a process where you submit something. Hey, this is a change I think should happen. There's a description. Other developers look at it, review it, determine if it's feasible, if it works, if there's any corrections that need to be made. And so I participate in that process myself for my own team.
Nice. And so majority of times in either writing code or code review or code related tasks.
Yeah.
And
For the
maybe
most- for the most
35
part.
hours, maybe 30, 35 hours. Majority of your week is spending writing or reviewing or code related tasks. So, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. How big's your team?
We have, let's see. So you might be surprised to hear this, but Enterprise Holdings, at least my team in particular, and I've heard this is true for other departments, we have a lot of I don't want to say remote workers. They are contractors. So while I am an employee for Enterprise Holdings, at least half of our team, at least 60% of my immediate team is contractors through a contracting company. So individuals that work all across the United States, in different time zones, but they contribute to the team. They've been part of the team. Most of them have been part of the team longer than I have. And I'm not sure what the reason for that is, but it's probably just staffing related things. Maybe you only need people for a certain amount of time, and so it's easier to do contracting in that sense. But our team is probably, I would say, close to 40 people, including all the business analysts, QA, and managers.
Okay.
And yeah, close to 40 people. But I don't work with 40 people. The truth is that a lot of times they split it up into smaller teams. And so those are called scrum teams. Something to look up if you guys are interested in the business world. And so that's about 3 or 4 developers, one QA, one business analyst, and then there's a lead.
Nice. Nice. So bigger team, 40 or so, but broken down into smaller teams.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. And so, you know, man, you've just been every definition of the word, a successful student, alumni, graduate, employee. You've started off in a great company. I haven't talked to your supervisor, but I'm imagining you're continuing to do well. I bet you if I got to talk to your supervisor, you said your 1 year evaluations 5 stars. I'm just guessing. What advice would you give to my current class of students that want to become you in that kind of regard? They want to follow in your footsteps. They want to work at Enterprise Holdings or another successful, large corporate America business that has built a name for itself.
Each company is going to vary, I think. I'm not like some expert in programming. I'm no Java expert. I'm not an expert in any of the languages I know, really, but I show enthusiasm. This is something my manager has told me before. I'm eager to learn. I participate, and I just don't waste time, I guess. I stay focused when I'm at work. So I think the most important thing to do is first get your foot in the door, to reach out to companies that you think you want to work for, and to show interest. And once you've gotten there, once you've made it to that position, it's not like you can sit back and relax. To be successful, you really do have to put in the effort and have drive. And I think that's one thing that's been successful for me. It's not like it comes naturally to me per se. I do have to think about, hey, let's put in good effort today. Let's ask more questions. Let's participate more. Keeping notes, that sorts of thing. It's an important skill to have, I think, to be driven, to be motivated, even after you've found your dream job or whatever it is that you wanted to do in life. And I think that stands true even in the classroom, where it's just a grade, right? But ultimately someone's going to view that grade, or ultimately that grade is going to result in you graduating or not. And those things matter less individually, but as a sum, they matter quite a bit. And so if you build those skills now, if you have that drive now in whatever it is you want to do, then I think it'll only result in success later on for you later.
So you weren't satisfied with an A in one course. You wanted an A in multiple courses. Then you wanted to get the job. Then you wanted to succeed on the job. It's a never-ending drive.
Yeah, it's true. It's
to
true.
grow.
Yeah, because at this company in particular, there's really no limit. I mean, I'm at the bottom of the bottom as far as roles go, as far as positions go. So I've got a lot of growth potentially. And so that's just something to look forward to. I think that's more reason not to just sit back, relax, and kind of fizzle in terms of your productivity. So yeah, I think those are the kinds of things. And like I said at the start, it depends on the company, right? Every company is going to be a little different in the way they handle their employees and the way they motivate their employees. But at least in Enterprise Holdings, I think they want their employees to succeed. And it feels it feels like it comes natural to want to thrive in that environment because they promote it so much.
Why did you choose this industry? I mean, you could have gone into other industries. Why did this relate to you, or why'd you get in?
In high school and grade school, I was really good at math. Um, and then I got to college, went to Standard University, like probably some of the kids in your class. Um, University is really tough. Spend a lot of time doing things that don't feel relevant to the curriculum that you really want to do. Some people know what they want to do in university. Some people are just taking classes to figure it out. I was on the engineering program, very math related, which was really tough. Calculus, um, the whole 9 yards. And then I think it was my first year of engineering semester coursework. I had to take another programming course, and it was just one course, just for exposure, I guess. And I got through that just fine. I didn't think too much of it. It wasn't until later on that I decided maybe this engineering thing is not for me. It's pretty tough. And then I thought, well, heck, I took a computer programming class first semester, and my last semester of high school, I took a computer programming class as well. And I thought that came pretty easily to me. It just felt natural. Felt like a subject that I didn't have to try too hard in to excel at. And so I thought I'd give it a shot. In addition to it, I just really liked it. So I switched to computer science. It turns out university wasn't for me. Then I came to Ranken, and Ranken exposed me to more than just C++ and Java. Ranken exposed me to web development, which is a whole different facet of this industry. But turns out it was one that really excited me, motivated me, lit a fire under my butt, you could say. And so I just grabbed the bull by the horns and went after it. And I didn't think about where I was going. I just thought that I'm headed in that direction, and I'll know when I get there. And then the opportunity for enterprise came up, and it was like all the stars aligned. So,
Well, it's interesting because I know you, and I know you have the brains to be an engineer. Although what I'm hearing is that because of your passion, you found computer science easier, right?
it's definitely easier for me,
For
I would
you,
say.
because you enjoy it, you have a little bit more of a passion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, and I said this earlier. I think if you have a passion for something you like to do.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be a passion, but something you like to do, something you genuinely like to do. Things will come naturally more easy for you because you don't have to get over the hoop of, man, I got to do this, man, I got to do that. And that mental hoop it exists for everybody. And I think that's an important thing to consider.
I uh, I really appreciate the answers that you've given. I think they're great tips and advice for anyone who's willing to accept that advice. So, really good answers. I will open it up to the class and ask if anyone has any questions for Evan, whether it's related to his company, his time at Rankin. Any questions? Yes, Stephen.
What kind of back-end project did you do to get yourself familiar with like back-end stuff?
What kind of projects did you do, whether at school or outside, to get you familiar with back-end development?
Um, Actually, all of my experience with backend development came from, I think it was third and fourth semester. So the next 2 semesters for these folks, if their curriculum is still the same. I don't know if it's still the same. And what we did was backend web development in our third semester and backend web development in our fourth semester for mobile. And so it was a lot easier in school, but that was using Google's Firebase, which does all the work for you. I mean, they've got all the libraries set and everything. And it was just fun. But it really taught me the fundamentals of how a application on the web, or just a website necessarily, interacts with a server. And that's what I carried on to work, because really what I learned in school didn't directly relate to work, It was kind of more the fundamentals and then just Java in general.
So it was kind of built into the curriculum, in other words, the projects that you did
Yeah,
and that
I was really lucky.
those fundamentals. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So like in the first year, like at like a professional company, do you start like for the first like month learning, or do you start like soon, like after like a week or two, like joining the team actually?
So I'll just hint that I was part of I was part of an internship program. This is something they did for the first time. They hired 10 engineer ones at the same time as me, so I was one of 10 people. In addition to 30 interns, we had an Ignite program, Ignite as in like Ignite fireworks. And that was kind of a 10-week, 1 day a week session of learning the business and developing business related skills such as communication, teamwork, on projects, for example. But the other 4 days of that 10-week session, these are my first 10 weeks of working for the company. I was on the team. I was working with the team, onboarding, getting access to certain things, and it really wasn't like I just sat around and did mostly learning for the first time. I think my first story, we call them stories, are just little bits of work that we do for our application. My first story was within like the first couple of weeks of working there, so it was I dove in, I would say. I really dove in, and it was thanks to my two mentors that helped me learn the application really quickly, just enough to do what I had to do, and then everything else has kind of come gradually ever since.
Good question. Yeah. Other questions for Evan?
Is he currently learning language?
Are you currently learning any other languages?
I would say no. It's a 40-hour work week job.
So you're
But one
you're
day I
probably
would
learning
like
Java
to-
every day, yeah?
Java's so easy now, Mr. G. There are a whole bunch of libraries that we just have. You just use existing functions, existing methods that are already written.
Yep.
And there's really not a whole lot of legwork to it. But yeah, I think the hardest part about working here is not necessarily learning a language or learning the languages that we're using. It's really understanding the business, the way it operates, because you can't work at a company just knowing Java. That's not good enough. You have to know what your role is amongst all the other roles, as well as how you're going to facilitate what you need to do based on the information that's coming from everybody else.
Yep.
So they tell you how, for example, in my situation, a reservation exists, but there's so much more to a reservation than just that. After a reservation's made, the person still has to show up to the branch. They still have to sign a contract. So there are all kinds of different things that happen in the background. Pricing has to come in for that reservation. There has to be an assertion to whether availability for a certain car is even there. So just knowing Java is not enough. You really do have to know the business,
Yeah.
like you are an employee at the countertop, in order to write the code.
It's really great advice. It's really great advice. So if I go to enterpriserentalcar.com, and I make a reservation, at some point I'm going to be interacting with code that you've worked on. Is that correct?
Soon.
Soon.
Right now, it's still legacy, as we call it, RSI services, and so that's been in place for years now.
Okay.
It's getting old and outdated. We're rebuilding it. So eventually, by the end of 2020, what is it, 2023? By the end of 2023, we'll be in production, as they say. So
Nice.
what we've been working on for the past year and a half, we'll finally make it.
Nice. Again, man, any other questions before we wrap up? Yes.
What was his first week like?
What was your first week like?
It was exciting, actually. Just got to meet everybody, met my manager, met my department manager, met my mentors. I think we went to the movie. One day before my first day, we went to the movies as a whole team. I participated in that. So I think Enterprise really just wanted to set a mood of, hey, this team is welcoming and we're excited to have you. And that's what I took from it.
like when you actually have to start doing work?
What was the first work week when you actually had to start doing work as opposed to onboarding?
That was the second week, so that was not too bad either. The team was understanding that I had to essentially learn everything from scratch. Not the code necessarily, not writing code necessarily, but like the code base that we have, our business processes, that sort of thing. So it wasn't too bad. It just really depends on your team, I think. If you have a team that's helpful, if you have a team that is accommodating, forgiving, that can teach you effectively, then I think you'll be all right.
Well, again, congrats on your on your start into this industry and successful start at that.
Yeah, thank you.
Can't wait to see where you're at in 5 to 10 years. Have a pretty good guess that you're going to continue to grow and experience success, man. So I'm just happy for you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Mr. G. Appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, and thanks for talking to my students. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, it was good to get their questions. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Okay, thanks, Evan. All right, I'm going to stop.